The first thing I noticed was her perfume. Different, more expensive. Sarah had never worn anything like it before. The scent lingered in our bedroom even after she'd left for work, 2 hours earlier than necessary. That should have been my first clue, but I was too trusting, too naive. It's funny how the mind refuses to see what the heart can't bear to acknowledge. My name is Tom Richardson. Until 3 months ago, I believed I had built a life worth envying, a successful career as an operations manager at Nexus Technologies, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and 15 years of marriage to Sarah, my college sweetheart. We had no children, a mutual decision that allowed us both to focus on our careers. Or so I thought. What I didn't realize was that while I was supporting Sarah's ambitions, she was rewriting our story without me. "Tom, you won't believe this," Sarah said one evening 6 months ago, practically dancing into our kitchen where I was preparing dinner. "Erica's leaving for maternity leave next month, and Michael hinted that I'm the front-runner to fill her position temporarily." I turned from the stove to see my wife's face flushed with excitement. Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships, the position she'd been eyeing for years. "That's fantastic, honey." I set down the wooden spoon and embraced her. "Though knowing you, it won't be temporary for long." Sarah laughed, the sound bright and carefree in our sunlit kitchen. "Michael said the same thing. He thinks I have what it takes to make it permanent." "Michael's right," I said, returning to the simmering pasta sauce. "You've been putting in the hours. You deserve this." "I still have to impress the board," Sarah said, grabbing a bottle of wine from our rack. "This calls for a celebration." That night, as we toasted to her potential promotion, I noticed how she kept checking her phone. I attributed it to excitement, to the possibility of finally reaching the career milestone she'd been working toward since joining Nexus 8 years ago. I was proud of her determination, her drive. It was one of the reasons I'd fallen in love with her. "To my biggest supporter," she said, raising her glass. Her blue eyes, usually sharp and focused, seemed to look through me rather than at me. Again, I missed the sign. "Always," I promised. The changes were gradual but unmistakable. Late-night strategy sessions, weekend meetings, urgent calls that took her into another room. Her wardrobe evolved. More designer labels, higher heels, bolder colors. When I commented on a particularly expensive-looking dress, she waved it off. "Image matters at this level, Tom. Michael says the board responds to confidence." Michael says. The phrase became increasingly common in our conversations. "Michael thinks we should target the Asian market more aggressively. Michael believes the Henderson contract could be renegotiated. Michael invited me to join the executive dinner with the investors." Michael Donovan had been with Nexus for nearly 20 years, climbing from a sales position to chief revenue officer. At 52, he had the polished look of success, salt and pepper hair, tailored suits, and the easy confidence that comes with power. I had met him at company functions, found him charming enough but somewhat calculating. Sarah had always described him as brilliant but demanding. Now she spoke of him with reverence. I told myself this was natural. He was her mentor, her path to advancement. The late nights, the distraction, the emotional distance, all of it could be explained by her drive to succeed. I had always supported her career, encouraged her ambitions. I wasn't about to become the insecure husband who resented his wife's success. So I adapted. I took over more of the household responsibilities without complaint. I learned to eat dinner alone most nights, to sleep in an empty bed. I sent encouraging texts that often went unanswered for hours. I became increasingly invisible in my own marriage, all while telling myself it was temporary, just until she secured the promotion. Our 15th anniversary fell on a Tuesday in April. I had made reservations at Aurelia, the upscale French restaurant where we'd celebrated our 10th. Sarah had promised to be home by 7. At 7:30, I received a text. "Running late. Start without me. Order the duck confit for me." I sat alone at our table, nursing a glass of Cabernet and making awkward small talk with our server. At 8:45, Sarah arrived, breathless and apologetic. "I'm so sorry," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. She looked flawless, too flawless for someone who had supposedly been working all day. Her makeup was fresh, her hair perfectly styled. The Henderson presentation ran long, and then Michael needed to discuss strategy for tomorrow's board meeting. I smiled, determined not to ruin our anniversary with accusations. "It's fine. Your duck is probably cold, though. I'll survive." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Happy anniversary, Tom. 15 years with my best friend." The words sounded rehearsed, empty. Her wedding ring caught the candlelight, and I noticed something I hadn't before. She had upgraded the modest diamond I had given her with something larger, more ostentatious. "New setting?" I asked, nodding toward her hand. A flicker of something, guilt, annoyance, crossed her face before she smiled. "Just something I treated myself to. 15 years deserves a little upgrade, don't you think?" I thought of our early years together, eating ramen in our tiny apartment, celebrating promotions with cheap champagne, dreaming of the future we would build together. The woman across from me felt like a stranger wearing my wife's face. "Sure," I said, raising my glass. "To upgrades." She clinked her glass against mine, relief evident in her eyes. She thought I didn't see it, didn't understand. But in that moment, doubt crystallized into suspicion. 2 weeks later, I was sorting through our mail when I noticed Sarah had left her work laptop open on the kitchen counter. It wasn't like her to be careless with company property. She must have rushed out that morning to her early strategy meeting. As I moved to close it, an email notification popped up on the screen. The sender, Michael Donovan. The subject line, "Last night." I should have respected her privacy. In 15 years of marriage, I had never snooped, never pried. Trust had been our foundation. But something, instinct, self-preservation, or perhaps the universe's cruel kindness, made me click. Sarah, last night was incredible. You continue to amaze me, both professionally and personally. I've attached the revised projections for the Henderson deal as we discussed. If we can bypass the regulatory review process as planned, Q3 profits will exceed expectations and your permanent appointment will be all but guaranteed. I've also reserved our usual room at the Granville for Friday, 8 p.m. Wear that red dress. Yours, Michael. Attached to the email was a spreadsheet titled Henderson Revised Internal. With numb fingers, I opened it. The document was an elaborate scheme to misrepresent data to both the company's internal compliance team and external regulators. It outlined how certain transaction details would be deliberately obscured, profit margins inflated, and potential environmental impacts minimized. All to fast-track a deal that would bolster quarterly earnings and, not coincidentally, secure Sarah's promotion. My stomach lurched. This wasn't just an affair. This was corporate fraud, potential criminal activity, all orchestrated by my wife and her lover. I forwarded the email and attachment to my personal account before closing the laptop exactly as I had found it. Then I walked to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bitter bile. That night, when Sarah returned home after another late meeting, I greeted her with a kiss on the cheek and asked about her day. The performance sickened me, but strategic thinking had overtaken emotional reaction. I needed to understand the full scope of their betrayal before deciding how to proceed. "Exhausting," she sighed, kicking off her heels. Red, I noticed, like the dress Michael had requested. "The Henderson deal is more complicated than we anticipated." "Regulatory issues?" I asked innocently. She looked at me sharply. "Something like that. Nothing we can't handle." "I'm sure you and Michael will figure it out," I said, my voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath. "We will." She yawned theatrically. "I'm beat. Don't wait up for me tomorrow. I'll be at the office late again." The Granville would have better room service, I nearly said. Instead, I nodded and watched as she climbed the stairs to our bedroom. Our bedroom, where another man's cologne now lingered on her skin. Our home, funded in part by my work at the very company she was now undermining. Our marriage, the foundation I had built my life upon, revealed as nothing but an elaborate facade. Sleep evaded me that night. Instead, I formulated a plan. Working in operations had its advantages. I had legitimate access to a wide range of company systems and data, all in the name of ensuring smooth business processes. Over the next 2 weeks, I methodically gathered evidence. I tracked Sarah's calendar against her actual whereabouts. I documented email exchanges between her and Michael that, while careful, contained enough innuendo to establish a pattern. I pulled security logs showing after-hours access to restricted areas of the office building. I recovered deleted drafts from the company's document management system that outlined their scheme in greater detail. Most damning of all, I discovered a shared cloud folder where they stored both their fraudulent business plans and intimate photographs I can never unsee. The latter broke my heart. The former would break their careers. Throughout this investigation, I maintained an outward normalcy that deserved an Oscar. I packed Sarah's lunches, asked about her meetings, and feigned ignorance when she claimed to be working late. I even attended a company function where I shook Michael's hand and complimented him on Nexus's strong quarterly projections. "Couldn't do it without your wife's brilliant work," he told me, his arm casually draped across my shoulders. "You should be proud, Tom." "Oh, I am," I replied, smiling as I pictured his downfall. "More than you know." The compliance department at Nexus Technologies prided itself on confidentiality. Their anonymous reporting system was designed to protect whistleblowers while facilitating thorough investigations. Perfect for my purposes. I compiled my evidence into a comprehensive dossier, carefully removing any metadata that might identify me as the source. Then, using a burner email account and VPN, I submitted it to compliance with a detailed explanation of the ethical and legal violations. For good measure, I sent copies to 3 board members known for their ethical stances. I also prepared, but did not yet send, an identical package addressed to the Securities and Exchange Commission. That would be my insurance policy if Nexus attempted to bury the investigation. Then I waited. 3 days later, the storm broke. I was in my office, reviewing inventory reports, when urgent meeting notifications began flooding everyone's calendars. The CEO requested all department heads to convene immediately. Hushed conversations filled the hallways. Security personnel appeared on floors where they rarely ventured. At 2:17 p.m., Sarah texted me. "Something's happening. Don't know what yet. Michael's in with the board and legal." I responded with appropriate concern. "Keep me posted. Love you." The lie tasted like ash. By 4 p.m., the company grapevine was buzzing with speculation. A major ethics violation, potential fraud, 2 high-level executives placed on immediate administrative leave. At 5:12 p.m., I received a call from Jeremy Foster, the head of Human Resources. "Tom, can you come to my office? There's a sensitive matter we need to discuss." I feigned confusion and concern as I made my way to the executive floor. Inside Jeremy's office, I found him accompanied by Diane Mehta, our chief legal counsel. "Please sit down," Jeremy said, his expression grave. "I'm afraid this is difficult news." I perched on the edge of a chair, my body language projecting appropriate anxiety. "What's going on?" Diane leaned forward. "Tom, we've uncovered evidence of serious ethical violations involving your wife, Sarah Richardson, and Michael Donovan. The allegations include an inappropriate personal relationship, conflicts of interest, and potential financial improprieties related to the Henderson contract." I widened my eyes, allowing genuine pain to show. That part required no acting. "What? There must be some mistake." "I'm afraid the evidence is quite substantial," Jeremy said gently. Both Sarah and Michael have been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. Given your relationship with Sarah, we wanted to inform you personally before the news becomes public. I buried my face in my hands, shoulders shaking. They interpreted it as shock and grief. In reality, I was fighting to suppress the savage satisfaction coursing through me. There's another matter, Diane continued after a respectful pause. Given your role in operations and your proximity to one of the individuals under investigation, we need to verify that you had no knowledge or involvement in these activities. Of course, I said, straightening. I'll cooperate fully. The subsequent interview lasted 2 hours. I answered truthfully about my knowledge of Sarah's work, expressed appropriate shock at the allegations, and maintained that I had noticed nothing unusual beyond her increased work hours. I signed statements, provided access to my work communications, and generally presented the image of a devastated but cooperative spouse. By the time I left the office, the sun had set. Multiple missed calls and texts from Sarah lit up my phone. I ignored them all and drove home to an empty house. She would be panicking now, scrambling to contact Michael, to construct their defense. Let them scramble. The evidence spoke for itself. Sarah arrived home shortly before midnight, her face pale and drawn, eyes red-rimmed from crying. "Tom," she gasped when she saw me sitting calmly at our kitchen table. "Oh God, Tom, something terrible has happened." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a hollow ache where love had once resided. "I know. It's all a misunderstanding," she said, dropping her bag and rushing toward me. "Someone's trying to frame us, frame Michael and me. They're making it look like you've been having an affair and committing fraud." I finished for her. She froze, her hands half extended toward me. "Tom, don't," I said quietly. "Don't insult what's left of our marriage with more lies." "I can explain," she whispered. "Can you explain the hotel receipts, the emails, the photos?" Each question landed like a physical blow. "Can you explain why you and your lover thought it was acceptable to risk an entire company's reputation and potentially break federal law to advance your careers?" The color drained from her face. You knew?" "I know everything, Sarah." She collapsed into a chair across from me, her designer outfit suddenly looking like a cheap costume. "How long?" "Long enough." She stared at me, realization dawning in her eyes. "It was you. You reported us." I neither confirmed nor denied. In the silence that stretched between us, 15 years of shared history crumbled to dust. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice small. "You could have confronted me. We could have worked through this." The audacity of her question ignited my carefully controlled anger. "Worked through what, exactly? Your affair? Your fraud? The complete betrayal of everything we built together?" "I never meant to hurt you," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But you did mean to sleep with Michael. You did mean to falsify company documents. You did mean to advance your career at any cost." I stood, no longer able to sit across from her. "Don't pretend this was some momentary lapse of judgment, Sarah. This was a deliberate choice you made every day for months." "I lost myself," she whispered. "The pressure, the opportunity, it all happened so fast." "No," I said firmly. "You found yourself. This is who you are when ambition outweighs integrity, and that's someone I can't be married to." Her tears flowed faster now, mascara creating dark rivers down her cheeks. "What happens now?" "Now? The company continues its investigation. The board reviews the evidence, and I expect both you and Michael will face the consequences of your actions, professionally and legally." "And us?" Her voice cracked on the question. I looked at the woman I had loved for more than half my life and felt nothing but exhaustion. "There is no us anymore, Sarah. I'll be contacting a divorce attorney in the morning." "Tom, please." I've already packed some things and booked a hotel room, I continued, immune to her pleas. I'll arrange to collect the rest of my belongings later. As I picked up my hastily packed suitcase from the hallway, Sarah called after me, her voice desperate. I still love you, Tom, despite everything I do. I paused at the door, not turning around. That's the thing about love, Sarah. Without trust and respect, it's just another word for manipulation. Then I walked out, closing the door softly behind me. The investigation moved with surprising speed. The evidence I had compiled was thorough, spanning months of communications and dozens of falsified documents. Within 2 weeks, both Sarah and Michael were terminated for cause, their company benefits and stock options immediately forfeit. The Henderson deal was restructured under proper regulatory oversight, delaying its implementation but preserving its legality. Nexus Technologies issued a press release citing internal control measures that had successfully identified and addressed ethical concerns, carefully avoiding specifics while reassuring shareholders. Throughout this process, I maintained my professional demeanor, expressing appropriate distress over my personal situation while continuing to perform my duties effectively. My colleagues were sympathetic but respectful of my privacy. Few connected me to the whistleblower report, assuming instead that I was simply collateral damage in my wife's downfall. 3 weeks after the investigation began, I received another summons to Jeremy Foster's office. This time, he was alone. Tom, first let me say how much we appreciate your professionalism during this difficult time, he began. Your ability to compartmentalize personal and professional matters speaks volumes about your character. Thank you, I said simply. I believe in separating personal issues from workplace responsibilities. Jeremy nodded appreciatively. That's precisely why I've asked you here today. As you know, the recent situation has created several vacancies in our leadership structure. The board has been reassessing our organizational priorities, particularly around operational integrity and compliance. I listened attentively, uncertain where this was heading. We're creating a new position, Executive Director of Operational Compliance and Risk Management. This role would oversee all aspects of our operational controls, ensuring that our business practices meet both regulatory requirements and our internal ethical standards. He leaned forward. We'd like to offer you this position, Tom. The irony was not lost on me. That's unexpected. Is it? You've demonstrated exceptional attention to detail, analytical skills, and, most importantly, uncompromising integrity. Those are precisely the qualities we need in this role. He slid a folder across the desk. The compensation package reflects the seniority and responsibility of the position. Take some time to consider it. I opened the folder. The salary was nearly double my current one, with substantial equity grants, expanded benefits, and a signing bonus. A significant upgrade from my previous role, and, notably, slightly higher than what Sarah would have earned in her coveted executive position. I appreciate the offer, I said, closing the folder, but I need to be transparent. Given recent events, I've been considering a fresh start, possibly with another company. Jeremy nodded understandingly. We anticipated that possibility. That's why the board authorized me to offer you a retention bonus and accelerated equity vesting if you commit to at least 2 years. He paused. Tom, we value what you bring to Nexus. We'd hate to lose you, especially under these circumstances. I promised to consider the offer and left with the folder tucked under my arm. As I walked back to my office, I passed what had been Sarah's, now emptied of her personal items, the nameplate removed, waiting for its next occupant. Perhaps me, in a twist of fate neither of us could have imagined. I accepted the promotion. Not out of revenge or satisfaction, though those emotions lingered like persistent shadows. I accepted because the role aligned with my skills and values, because the company had demonstrated its commitment to ethical conduct when tested, and because starting over completely felt like allowing Sarah's betrayal to claim yet another victim, my career. The divorce proceedings were mercifully straightforward. With both her reputation and finances in shambles, Sarah contested nothing. She surrendered her claim to our house, agreed to a minimal settlement, and signed the papers without argument. Through her lawyer, I learned she had moved to Arizona to live with her sister, unable to secure comparable employment after the scandal. Michael Donovan fared even worse. As the senior executive in the relationship, he bore the brunt of legal scrutiny. The SEC opened an investigation, resulting in personal fines and a 5-year ban from serving as an officer or director of any public company. His marriage of 28 years ended in a highly publicized divorce that cost him half his assets. Last I heard, he was trying to rebuild his life in Florida, working as a consultant for a fraction of his former salary. As for me, I found an unexpected peace in the aftermath of destruction. I sold our house, too filled with memories to remain comfortable, and purchased a smaller but more modern condominium closer to downtown. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the tunnel vision years of my marriage. I even began dating again, cautiously, after a year had passed. My new role at Nexus brought challenges and satisfaction in equal measure. I built a team dedicated to ensuring operational integrity, implementing systems that would make future ethical breaches more difficult to execute and easier to detect. The company thrived under renewed leadership, our stock price recovering from the temporary dip caused by the scandal. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I wonder if I could have handled things differently. If confronting Sarah immediately might have preserved something worth saving in our marriage. If reporting them anonymously was an act of justice or vengeance. But then I remember the calculated deception, the casual disregard for vows and laws alike, the complete absence of guilt until discovery forced it. And I know that while my methods may have been cold, they were proportionate to the betrayal. 18 months after that fateful day when I discovered Sarah's email, I received a letter with an Arizona postmark. Inside was a 10-page handwritten confession, Sarah's attempt at atonement, explanation, or perhaps just unburdening. She wrote of insecurity masked as ambition, of Michael's manipulation and her willing participation, of the intoxication of power and forbidden desire. She detailed how each small ethical compromise led to the next, how the affair and the fraud became intertwined until she could no longer separate her professional and personal corruption. I lost everything that mattered, she wrote toward the end, and gained nothing worth having. You were always the better person, Tom. I was too blind with ambition to see that integrity is the only true success. I read the letter once, then filed it away in a box of documents related to our divorce. Her confession changed nothing, healed nothing. It was, I suspected, more for her benefit than mine, part of some 12-step program or therapy assignment designed to help her rebuild her life. I wished her well in that endeavor, genuinely, but I had no interest in being part of her redemption story. My own story continued to unfold. 2 years after the promotion, I was invited to join Nexus's executive leadership team as Chief Operating Officer. The board cited my transformative impact on operational integrity and demonstrated leadership during challenging transitions. At the announcement dinner, the CEO raised a toast. To Tom Richardson, proof that in business as in life, the path of integrity may not be the easiest, but it is ultimately the most rewarding. Colleagues applauded, glasses clinked, cameras flashed. I smiled appropriately, made a humble speech about team efforts and company values. All the while, I thought about the true price of ambition, not measured in promotions or salaries, but in the choices we make and the people we become along the way. Sarah had chosen her path, as had Michael. Both had paid dearly for the shortcuts they attempted, for valuing achievement over ethics, desire over commitment. I had chosen a different path, one that looked longer and less glamorous from the starting line. Yet here I stood at a destination Sarah had coveted, reached without compromising my principles. That night, in my quiet condominium overlooking the city lights, I raised a solitary glass to the lessons learned from betrayal. Trust must be earned. Integrity is non-negotiable, and true success cannot be built on a foundation of deceit. Some might call what happened to Sarah and Michael karma. Others might see it as the natural consequence of their actions. I prefer to think of it simply as justice, not delivered by me, but by the truth itself, which has a way of emerging even from the most carefully constructed lies. As for me, I continue forward, neither defined by betrayal nor consumed by revenge, but shaped by both into someone stronger, wiser, and ultimately more compassionate than before. The price of ambition had been paid in full, by all of us, in different currencies. And in the end, I realized that the most valuable promotion wasn't to COO, but to a life lived authentically, without the burden of pretense or the weight of unexamined compromise. That, perhaps, is the greatest revenge of all. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.